Hello, I'm Samantha Nolan, and I'm the writer and director of Mercy's Gamble.
Hello, my name is Mello, and I am your narrator.
Hey, I'm E-Man, and I play Xander Grail.
I'm Cullen Sandberg, and I voice Snake Averous.
Hello, my name is David, and I will be playing as Canon Osman.
My name is Isaiah Hernandez, and I voice Wrath.
Hi, my name is Zaya, and I'm voicing for the role of Goddess Mercy.
July 1st, Paris, France. France was known for having a gorgeous and charming countryside. Xander Grail and his husband, Snake Averous, purchased a family chateau in Chenin-Loire Valley. They were both history buffs. Xander was a world-renowned archeologist and travelled the world working at dig sites. He spent his life uncovering history's lost treasures, and many times he succeeded in doing so. Snake was an art history professor, and spent most of his time in central France teaching. He had another passion too, the study of ancient languages. Summer was the time of the year when the two lovers had nothing else to do except explore the world, attend historical lectures, and visit the greatest monuments and ruins together. Xander was tall and handsome with a square jawline and ginger hair. He had naturally golden eyes and always seemed like he had drunk more coffee than was advisable. His mind was like a firecracker, constantly ready to spew information about Greek mythology, Roman antiquity, or ancient Egypt. He had a very rich voice, and could command an entire dig site full of archaeologists to stop their work in an instant. Snake had dark purple hair and a short, high ponytail. A few strands of hair fell over his sharp face, and the most noticeable thing about him were the emerald green eyes. They were intense and snake-like. His university students always commented that he had a voice that hissed at times, and he took that to heart, changing his name, which was originally Anthony Averous, to Snake Averous, which was partly done as a joke, but mostly because he felt it fit better. In the dining room of the chateau, Xander sat at a little wood table with organic lines engraved into the legs and trim. Snake was the one who decorated their home, and he had a keen eye for interior design. The exterior of the chateau was old, and built in the 18th century out of stone with a turret on the right side. On the inside, though, every room was decorated in the Art Nouveau style. It was like a fantasy cottage. There were swirling floral wall decals, wooden chairs with intricate designs and weirdly tall backs. Old wooden hanging lights with organic frames riddled the home, creating a sense of mystery and wonder. A knock came from the front door, and Xander stood to answer it. His eyes lit up, and he wrapped his arms around his husband, having not seen him since Christmas.
You should have told me you were coming, idiot.
Snake wrapped his olive-toned hand around Xander's back and pulled him close.
What? I'm not allowed to surprise you?
They intertwined their fingers as they walked into the chateau, leaving Snake's luggage at the door. They sat at the intricately designed table, and Xander slid an unopened envelope towards him with a smirk.
The mailman handed me this today. It's from the curator of the Troy Museum.
He tried to contain his excitement, as he had always dreamed of walking amongst those ruins. Snake carefully opened the letter, and his snake-like eyes went wide. He read out loud.
Dear Xander Grail and Snake Averous, it would be my pleasure as curator of the Troy Museum and overseer of the Troy ruins to invite the both of you to Turkey. There has been a major discovery. A bronze plaque was uncovered at one of our dig sites, and we don't know anyone who can read Latin, yada yada. With your expertise, Xander, on the history Troy, and your husband's skills in linguistics, I believe you'll be able to crack open the mystery behind this plaque. Please email me when you get the chance. Sincerely, Canon Osman.
Xander could do nothing but stare in bewilderment, amazement, and excitement as he thought of walking amongst the ruins of Troy. He looked like a kid in a candy shop, making Snake chuckle at the sight of his starry-eyed husband.
Troy! We're going to see the ruins of Troy!
Yes, Xander. We're going to Troy.
I've always wanted to go see the ruins of Troy.
Well then, maybe you should stop prancing around the dining room and reply to Mr. Osman's message.
Xander was, indeed, merrily prancing around their dining room, yelling Troy every few words. He ran across the room and swung up the spiral staircase within the turret of the chateau. Upstairs, the blue light of a computer screen lit Xander's beaming face. He typed quickly and with many errors that had to be corrected.
Dear Mr. Osmond, Snake and I are ecstatic about your letter, and I'm sending you this message to inform you we will be coming to Turkey to investigate this mysterious plaque. Looking forward to walking among the ancient ruins of Troy. Sincerely, Xander Grail.
He pressed send and leaned back in his swivel chair, arms folded behind his head.
Snake, you better pack your bags because I'm buying those plane tickets to Turkey.
You never waste time, do you? I suppose that's why I love you. Life is never boring when you're around.
This place is gorgeous! Are you seeing this, Snake? We're in Tefike!
He spun in a circle, taking in the blue sky and fluffy white clouds that drifted overhead. It was warm and dry. Many of the buildings had red triangular roofs with white or pale yellow walls. They were all built close together, stacking in diagonal lines up the sides of hills. Clusters of dense treetops could be seen nestled between houses, creating a cozy green landscape of bustling Turkish citizens. Snake breathed in the fresh air and took in the city sounds, feeling calm and energized.
I'm most excited for the food, and the drinks and the music. And, of course, more drinks.
Sure thing, Mr. Wine Connoisseur.
Oh, yeah? Well, at least I like to enjoy more sophisticated drinks than rye and coke, darling.
Xander stopped Snake in his tracks and placed his hands firmly on his shoulders. He smiled widely and bobbed up and down, looking his husband in the eyes.
We are literally next to the ruins of Troy right now. I can't believe I'm going to see the ruins after all this time.
Snake gave Xander a genuine smile and cupped his cheek with his hand.
I find it so entertaining, seeing you become a child in a candy shop at the mere mention of anything ancient. You look so much like Indiana Jones in that outfit.
That's exactly what I'm striving for. I may not be nearly as skilled or athletic as Indiana, but I could sure as heck pretend I am.
They laughed, swinging their arms around each other's shoulders and walking down the streets of Tavike. Xander wore a form-fitting forest green button-up tucked into beige khakis. He was also wearing a pair of brown hiking boots and a brown leather fedora. Snake, on the other hand, looked like a professional model ready for a photo shoot. His purple hair was tied back in a high ponytail. He wore a dark cyan blazer over a navy blue turtleneck, slim black jeans, and to top it all off, his black business shoes were shined to perfection.
I think that must be Kanon.
He pointed at an electric blue Corvette that rounded a street corner, headed their way. Snake's eyes sparkled at the sight.
Oh, hell yeah!
Xander rested his head on Snake's right shoulder.
When Kanon offered to drive us to the ruins of Troy and said he owned a Corvette, you know I couldn't pass up on the opportunity to see you excited for once.
The car pulled up, and the driver rolled down the window. He was an older man, around 35 to 40 years old, wearing a pair of black aviators and a messy white button-up shirt with blue jeans. Only half of the shirt was tucked in. His black hair was shaved at the sides in a wave pattern and curly on top.
I'm going to assume the man dressed as Indiana Jones is Xander Grail?
That would be me indeed. And this wonderfully dressed gentleman is my husband, Snake Averous.
Xander grinned proudly. Kanan chuckled and ushered him into the back of his electric blue car. Snake admired the red leather seats and the glossy black finish of the interior.
This thing's a beast, Mr. Osmond. My dad owned a red 1953 Chevrolet Corvette. If he hadn't ran that thing off a bridge in '89, I would own it right now. Although I love the old models, the newer ones are sporty and lightweight. My kinda style.
Kanan laughed heartily at Snake's car commentary, tipping his shades down to give him an approving nod. Xander and Snake took the rear seats in Kanan's electric blue car.
You're a fellow car connoisseur, huh?
Xander gave Snake a light, knowing smirk.
You have no idea.
Well, boys,
Kanan began, looking at Xander and Snake through the rear-facing mirror up front.
I've been looking forward to having you look at the plaque we found at the dig site. It's like nothing we've seen before. We believe it was created by the Romans, but the symbols we found there, so odd.
Xander leaned forward.
Odd? In what way?
Kanan gave a little smirk, shaking his head a bit.
There is a symbol of an eyeball that keeps showing up, but it doesn't make sense.
Well, the Greek goddess Thea is known as the goddess of sight. Could it be related to her? Or perhaps... No, Horus is an Egyptian god.
No, not Thea. This eye is round with a diamond pupil, and 3 distinct lashes. You'll hopefully get a better picture once Snake deciphers the Latin text.
Kanan's voice suddenly darkened and became much more serious.
You might think I'm crazy for saying this, but my team and I, we've been feeling this presence since uncovering and opening the limestone vault. There have been supernatural incidents.
Snake laughed, not believing a word Kanan said.
Oh, come now, Osman. Ghosts? Really? I thought you guys were scientists and archaeologists, not ghost hunters.
Oh, you'd be surprised, my friend. You'd be surprised.
Well, alright then. What supernatural events have happened as of late?
Xander sat quietly, listening intently to Kanan's account of tools being thrown at such a velocity. They almost impale a man. The vault suddenly closing behind Kanan, despite it being a heavy, limestone slab, hard for the average man to move alone, and being the only one in sight at the time. His team also found black maggots coming out of the shadows, seemingly manifesting from within the darkness. Of course, Snake just scoffed and waved Kanan off, but Xander was superstitious. He believed the stories.
Black maggots? That's interesting. Maybe a new species.
I see you don't believe me. But be warned, Averous. Some gods and goddesses are sinister in nature. It would be wise to take some caution whilst wandering the ruins all on your own.
Xander felt chills creeping up his spine.
Just a few more miles and we're at the ruins of Troy, so sit back and enjoy the ride.
Kanan turned on the rock music radio station and sped off down the empty country road. A brown dust kicked up behind the wheels. Xander closed his eyes, leaning his elbow on the door and resting his head in his palm. For a moment, his mind calmed. His heart began to race. Something was wrong. He couldn't wake up. He couldn't open his eyes, and he could feel eyes watching him from somewhere within the dark void.
What the hell is this? This is just a dream. Everything will be fine. I just have to wake up.
No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't open his eyes, and the sickeningly awful sense of foreboding set in. His breath escaped faster and faster. Where was he? Xander looked down. He could see his body, and he felt his hands squirming, but they were not with him in the dreamscape. Almost as if his existence was simply a consciousness in a void of nothingness. His heart pounded, but within the confines of this paralysis, there was nothing he could do.
Who's doing this? I know you're there, so just show yourself already.
He hoped nothing would respond. Every muscle in his body tensed. A cackling, raspy laugh echoed from the darkness before and all around him. It started quiet, far away, and then without a moment's notice the laugh howled to Xander's left. He shifted his eyes, shaking violently. Nothing was there. A strange, overpowering presence weighed down upon him, causing his breath to become shallow, like the feeling of drowning. A slow, reverberating ticking pulsed from the shadows.
Who are you?
The wicked cackling echoed again, but this time it had a weird, almost pleasant undertone to it. Whoever was taunting him was doing it for the entertainment.
Please! Please get me out of this nightmare!
Nightmares are false, creations of the human mind. But I am no such creation.
The sound of a metal chain falling from above rattled, and suddenly, a dim, pale yellow light buzzed to life. A figure began emerging. An inhumanely tall creature, hunched and wearing a transparent grey cloak. Scraps of worn and ripped fabric hung off its emaciated body. As the entity became whole, black maggots and long, wriggling worms fell from within the cloak, and squirmed. But Xander was not concerned with the bugs. Finally, he knew where that ticking sound was coming from. A massive, blue-tinted eyeball swung, like a pendulum, from a rotting string of flesh attached to the creature's bony, curved neck. Its glowing red pupil shaped like a diamond, side to side it moved, ticking like a grandfather clock. Xander could see the branching blue veins creeping along the round, glossy exterior of the eye.
You can't be real.
Are you sure? Because I've been waiting a long time, human, for the chance to fulfill my purpose.
Your purpose?
The entity raised a skeletal claw to pull up the sleeve of his cloak, revealing a tight cluster of squirming, black maggots.
These little things give me a solid form, but I need something more singular, more whole.
What the hell are you?
What am I? Well, you'll find out soon enough.
The entity retreated into the darkness with a fading laugh. The light buzzed and darkened.
Xander! Hey! We're here. Wake up.
Xander groaned, opening his eyes. He was relieved to finally see his husband's face, and hoped that the creature he had seen in his nightmare was, in fact, a nightmare.
Hey, you look pale. Are you okay?
Snake cupped Xander's cheek with a hand. Xander thought for a moment, about telling Snake what he had seen, but he knew his husband wouldn't believe that thing could have possibly been a real threat.
It was just a nightmare. Don't worry about it.
He smiled. Snake eyed him suspiciously, but dropped his gaze. He opened the door of the Corvette so they could get out. Kanan flicked a cigarette between his fingers, then lit it up and took a long drag.
Do either of you want a smoke?
Snake gave a small smirk and held his dark purple lighter out, flame lit.
How can I say no? Lucky for me, because I left mine back at home.
Kanan nodded and turned to Xander, who politely shook his head. The encounter with the creature played in the back of his mind. All he could see was that eye, swinging from side to side, staring at him. Snake took Xander by the hand and led him towards the stairs. The day was beautiful and calm. White clouds drifted overhead. Kanan seemed a bit off to Snake. He walked like a man lost in a forest, knowing a beast was stalking close behind.
Hey, why does he look so concerned? I mean, these ruins are just a bunch of limestone walls and dust.
But maybe we should be a bit cautious, you know? There might be, snakes?
Not you two. Come on, Xander. Those ghost stories Kanan told us probably have logical explanations. There's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, nothing to worry about.
Xander swallowed hard. They walked amongst the ancient limestone ruins and climbed up modern stairs. It was surreal, seeing what was essentially an entire civilization, and buildings that had been completely and utterly torn apart. There were walls, the essence of what was once there, and it was terrifying how something which was once so grand and beautiful could die and decay so completely. Parts of buildings shattered, and plants grew on and around the ruins, consuming Troy and merging the ancient city with the earth itself. Xander's eye caught the sight of a black, squirming maggot hidden behind a rock. He shuddered and kept walking.
It's not real. It's your imagination. He's not real.
Love, are you sure you're okay?
If I told you, you wouldn't believe me.
That's a possibility. I am what one would call a realist.
I think we should stop following Kanon and get out of here.
But your dream has always been to see the ruins of Troy. And now you want to run away from your dream because of some stupid ghost stories?
Yes, Anthony. There is something very wrong. You need to trust me.
Snake hadn't heard his given name in a long, long time. Xander's tone startled him. He could tell something was very wrong, but didn't want to acknowledge the fact that Xander could be right.
Xander! What we need to do is do what Kanan is paying us to do. And then, enjoy the wonderful amenities Turkey has to offer. I don't know what your dream was about, but it's just a dream, a creation of your subconscious. Nothing more.
Snake brushed past Xander and caught up with Kanan, starting a conversation about the newest and greatest cars available on the market.
I sure hope that this is a creation of my subconscious, but if he isn't, this could get very dangerous.
Xander sighed and followed further behind. He looked down at his gold wedding band and brushed it lightly with his thumb. In the reflection he swore the creature's blue, veiny eye was swinging side to side, ticking right behind his head. He looked back, and of course, nothing was there. He turned his gaze back to the reflection in his ring, and all he could see was his own face. Terrified. Kanan stood in front of a large limestone slab, long and rectangular, covered in dust. The area around the slab, covered in crumbling ruins, seemed more silent and devoid of life than the rest of the site. Xander could hear the ticking in his mind as he stared down at the slab. Kanan noticed the way Xander looked around, as if something were watching them.
You've seen him too, I can tell. You can hear it, can't you?
Kanon, do you ever see that thing in your dreams?
Oh yes. Once he has found you, he never leaves. He becomes this shadow following you around. You can hear the tickling of his eye, swaying back and forth, in an endless loop.
This is a joke. Very funny, guys. But I'm not falling for it.
You haven't seen him. If you did, you wouldn't be taking this as a joke.
Snake backed away as Kanan took an aggressive step forwards.
Okay, alright, just hold on a second.
Kanan kept taking more heavy steps towards him, walking like some zombie. Snake watched as his eyes rolled to the back of his head, and Xander was too afraid to speak or move. Finally, he mustered up the courage to grab the curator's arm, but suddenly, horrifyingly, he heard the sound of the slab scraping across the ground behind him. A silent moment passed. A cold, squirming cluster of maggots clumped together in the shape of a claw and lunged out from the dark tomb. The wriggling infestation wrapped around Xander's ankle. He let out a scream in terror as he felt his feet leave the ground. He clawed the dust with his fingers, frantically trying to stop the maggots from dragging him into the cold, dark tomb.
Snake! Snake out! Snake!
Violently, he felt his body being thrusted down the limestone steps. All that was left was his brown, leather fedora.
Xander!
He looked at Kanan, who knelt on the ground, gasping for air as if he had just been saved from drowning.
Kanan, what happened?
Everything went dark, and then the ticking started. That goddamn ticking! his eye, his red eye. Then, I think I blacked out.
Snake left Kanan to regain his composure and rushed down the steps to find Xander. He pulled out his purple lighter and flicked it on. The flame flickered across the ancient limestone walls, casting harsh shadows. Snake descended further and further into the unknown darkness, and saw a trail of blood at the bottom of the stairs. Xander was lying unconscious before a massive bronze plaque with Latin scripture engraved into it. Snake knelt down beside his husband and checked Xander's pulse through his wrist. He sighed in relief, feeling it.
Oh, thank God. This is insane. I'm so sorry, Xander. I should have believed you.
He stood and brought his lighter up to read the scripture. His reflection warped across the bronze plaque.
This tomb holds the remains of the ancient god of wrath. Born of the blood of humanity, the enemy of mercy and the father of chaos. Bonds of mercy bind Wrath, keeping him powerless and always asleep until his bonds are broken. This tomb must remain buried forever, or it will arouse wrath and bring chaos back into the world.
From far up the stairs, Snake heard the slab scraping against the ground, closing him and Xander within the tomb of wrath.
Shit.
He spun around, feeling an echoing, raspy, and cackling laugh rattle his bones. Black, wriggling masses began pouring out of the shadows in clusters to form the tall, hunched, and grey-cloaked figure of Wrath. His large eye swung from side to side on a string of rotting flesh, the ticking sound identical to that of a grandfather clock. A sound that should have been impossible. Snake felt bile in his throat as the mass of maggots took squishing steps towards him from the shadows. His flame went out, and all he could see was that red eye glowing before him. The creature pointed a skeletal finger at Snake. The maggots rushed forwards and absorbed Snake's body into their squirming mass. The metal lighter clanged as it hit the sandstone floor. Wrath howled with laughter as his own body dissolved into a heap of ash along with the maggots. From the ash, Snake opened his eyes. They were blood red and glowing.
Snake, where are we? Love, are you alright?
Snake did not answer. Snake turned to face his husband, but Xander knew immediately what had happened, and his heart sank to the pit of his stomach at the sight of those blood-red eyes.
You bastard! Give him back! Let my husband go!
Snake stood to his feet as well, and the two stared one another down.
Hello, Xander Grail.
Tears slipped down Xander's pale cheeks. He didn't know what to do, what to say, or what the hell was going on. But he knew Wrath was dangerous, and that he had stolen Snake's body for his own.
Why didn't you take my body when you had the chance? Why did you have to take his body when you appeared in my nightmare?
I never wanted your body, Xander. You're too cheerful, too kind for my taste. Your husband, on the other hand, more cold and calculated. Something about his soul enticed me much more than yours does.
Before Xander could result in trying to physically fight the god of Wrath, the bronze plaque began to glow with a bright, golden light. A beautiful woman with golden skin, long flowing gold hair and ringlets, and wearing a golden dress with emerald roses lining the folds of the skirt and down to her long sleeves, formed in the tomb. She had a soft, rounded jawline and large emerald green eyes. She glared down at Snake with the look of a disappointed mother.
Now, Wrath. It's impolite to possess the person who freed you from my shackles, is it not?
Mercy. So what if I stole his body? He smelled like expensive champagne. I couldn't pass that up.
Wrath crossed Snake's arms, pouting like a child. Mercy shook her head, clicking her tongue in annoyance. Xander stood between them, absolutely flabbergasted and filled with grief. He looked up at Mercy with pleading eyes.
Can you free Snake? He's my husband.
Mercy's eyes softened with sadness, and so did Xander's.
I am so Sorry. You poor thing. Your husband's soul has been consumed by Wrath's infestation. He, regrettably, cannot be brought back to life.
How can you be so cruel? Stealing innocent human souls for your own entertainment? You sick bastard!
Wrath just laughed mockingly, patting Xander on the head with Snake's hand, which made the situation all the more horrifying and depressing.
Your husband is good looking. I'll give him that. Sorry for the inconvenience this is causing you, but I need to borrow him for a while. Hope you don't mind.
Mercy gently pushed Xander back to his knees as she floated past him.
I mind, Wrath.
Wait, what are you?
She raised her golden palms and a ball of light began to form between them.
Wait, hold on now. Do you really need to send me back to the shadow? I just got here, darling!
Wrath nervously backed away as Mercy advanced. He pressed Snake's back up against the wall, hands up in defense.
Don't call me darling again. Do you hear me?
Understood.
The light brightened and he screamed in agony as Snake's body melted into a heap of ash. Wrath's struggling voice echoed from a distant place.
I'm not done here, Mercy. When the moon raises and the darkness of night consumes Earth, I will return. I'm not shackled by you anymore, you witch!
Mercy stood confidently over the pile of smoldering ash.
I shackled you once, Wrath, and I'll shackle you again, just you wait, you disgusting Cyclops.
The light dissipated, and all that was left was a shaking, sobbing Xander. Mercy sighed, rubbing her temples with her 2 fingers.
Listen, Mr. Grail, I am so sorry about Wrath. I should have intervened sooner. I should have appeared before Mr. Osmond, and I should have told him to reseal this tomb. No. It's done. All we can do now is work to stop Wrath.
Xander slid his hands away from his eyes and looked up, hopeless.
Why? I've lost the most important person to me. How could I go on living without Snake? He was everything to me. And now, well, he looks like something straight out of a Lovecraft novel.
Mercy placed her hand on his sulking shoulder.
I know you are heartbroken. You are suffering. But there is a light at the end of the forest. There will always be mercy.
Xander's eyes shrouded with anger.
Mercy, huh? Where were you when my husband's body was taken over by Wrath?
She was at a loss for words. Xander was right, and it was her mistake to correct.
Listen, Xander. Wrath will bring chaos to the world if we don't do something. What happened with your husband was my fault, and now I must work to shackle Wrath once more. Please, Xander. Help me and I...
She took a shameful breath, knowing what she was about to offer was highly frowned upon in the realm of the gods.
I will reunite you with your husband, should you choose to accept a merciful death as an apology. Although Snake's soul was consumed, he still exists as a soul in Wrath's realm of darkness.
Xander closed his eyes and let his memories of Snake flood his mind. A tear slid down his cheeks, and he opened his eyes again.
Xander, I do hope I can guide you down a path of healing. In your state, Wrath has the ability to read your mind and feed into your fear, your pain, and your anger. He could use you for his evil bidding, and I cannot let that happen.
She held her hand out for Xander to take, and he hesitantly accepted. The moment their hands touched, he felt a wash of warmth and happiness flow through his body.
I can only maintain your inner emotions to a certain extent. I can protect you as long as you try your hardest in keeping your negative emotions in check.
I don't know how we're gonna stop Wrath, but I'll do what I can. For the chance to see Snake again, and only for that chance. If you can't give me what you promised, I might just take up what Wrath has to offer instead.
A flash of fear glinted in Mercy's emerald eyes.
I can assure you, Xander, you will get what you desire, I promise you that. Now, I don't want you threatening to side with Wrath again. Those are the thoughts that make it easy for him to control you.
Xander stood to his feet and gave a tired smile.
Yeah, well, you have your work cut out for you then.
Indeed, I do.